A Science of Change, podcasting by Gilmore Crosby, social scientist, author, and organization development professional since 1984. So greetings, welcome to another podcast. And this time I have a very special guest, one of my favorite customers over the years, Paul Hinnenkamp. And so we're just going to talk about our experiences together and why he used OD, what value he saw in that throughout his different locations and roles. And so welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Gil. Good to join you.
Yeah, it's good to be with you this way. And I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, it's not quite as good as being in person with you, but we'll take what we can get.
That's it. So I just wanted to start at the beginning. We met back, I started at Pico Nuclear in 1996 and as an internal OD person, and we met soon after. And at least what I recall, one thing I recall is doing a transition session for you. And so I don't know if you remember that at all, but I think we were at like an old, it wasn't a farmhouse, but it was sort of like that, where it was you and a new group that you were working with. You remember any of that, Paul?
Well, you know, Gil, it's hard to believe our relationship goes back 30 years almost.
Yeah.
I remember portions of that, but what I do remember, Gil, is many transition sessions, and any time that I had the opportunity to have a new team take on a new role, we conducted transition sessions. It wasn't necessarily always with you, but I certainly remember a number of those being done with you. Yes.
And do you recall why you saw value in doing a transition session?
I mean, look, I learned a long time ago, I don't have all the answers, and sometimes I don't have many of the answers, and I need help. And I think leaders, and I succumbed to it a couple of times throughout my career, probably more than a couple of times, Gil, of thinking I could do it on my own and that I had the answers since I was put in this wonderful role, whatever it would have been. But I learned that I needed help and I needed expertise. And in the world of organizational development and transition, I certainly needed that help. And I recognized that you and your teams could help me and my teams work through issues in a way that I was not able to work through on my own with that team.
And the transition session, listeners, is simply a conversation where the new leader and the group spend time, and the group talks about things like, the things that they know about the organization that maybe the new leader doesn't know. And, but also just a chance for people as a group to ask questions of the leader. And it could be as simple as like, well, where are you from? And, how'd you get to this point in your career, and what are you hoping from us? But it's just a way of, instead of people one-on-one slowly getting to know the leader through interactions, having the whole group experience the interactions and speeding up the process.
I think it also, as human beings, we make assumptions all day long. And most of the time I have found, for me, and I think it's for others, our assumptions are usually wrong. And unfortunately, we don't often make positive assumptions. We too often make negative assumptions. And so those transition sessions, you would come into those and I would have assumptions about the team and the team would have assumptions about me. And the ability to have somebody there, such as yourself, Gil, to help us work through that was just very, very helpful and help accelerate the ability of that team to perform at a higher level.
Yeah, that makes sense. Often leaders are told that they're being put in the position they're in to fix something. And so there's expectations that have been placed on them by whoever put them in the position.
Yes.
And so not just staying stuck in that, but learning from the people that are going to be led, what they think is going on, what they think is working and not working is a helpful conversation.
It is, and it would be far better for us as leaders, I think, not to put it in the realm that you just put it of fixing things, rather than improving things and taking it to a higher level of performance.
Sure.
There's a negative connotation too often with fixing something versus a positive connotation about we're here, we're capable of doing more and operating at a higher level. Let's figure out together how we can do that.
That makes sense. I think that was one OD service that with Pico Nuclear became an expectation that whenever there was a change in leadership in any group, they had a transition session. We actually trained a whole group of people that were Pico people to facilitate those. It wasn't just me or a professional, and it wasn't always an easy relationship. For me, being an OD person in Pico Nuclear, that was the first internal position I had, where I was a full-time person for the organization. But there was sort of what do we do with this guy, this OD service? And is this, I think, in some ways a threat to have somebody who's just supposed to be paying attention to like our group dynamics and our leadership behaviors, and but that was one model that organization said, "Wow, this really just makes so much sense. We're always going to do this." And
well, it took a while. You were. I don't know if it was a threat. It could have been. I think probably some viewed it like that. For me and others, I think, it gets back to hey, you made me the supervisor. Hey, you made me the manager. Hey, you made me this. Let me go do my job. And we too often as leaders think that we can do it all. And we didn't trust enough of those above us that they really did have our best interest and the team best interest in mind when we went after these transition sessions, new team integration sessions. And, I probably did not, get along with you initially, Gil. We probably butted heads a bit. And I was probably, man, why am I having to work with Gil?
Yeah.
I went from that to, I cannot imagine taking on a new team without doing an integration or a transition session. It is that powerful and that important in my mind. And so I think I adapted fairly quickly, but I'm with you. I'm sure it was pretty tough for you at the start.
Well, it was just also being an outsider. I think that was part of the awkwardness for me too. It was not like I was necessarily smooth at how to fit in way back in 1996, and so And it was a tight knit team when I arrived at Peach Bottom. You guys had already been through a lot together and a lot of success. And so it was really Jerry Rainey, at the time the VP of the nuclear group, that said, "Well, we're going to keep doing this stuff." It helped us, the whole Peach Bottom shutdown recovery and building a new culture, which my father was more involved in than I was. But it helps, so we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, there's an outstanding leader right there of people, Jerry Rainey, and developing people and developing high-performing organizations. And
Yeah.
A lot of folks got on board with that, and not only there at Peach Bottom, but many people that left Peach Bottom and went out into the industry carried many of those practices forward with them, me included.
Yeah, well, you in particular, I think, at least in terms of using me, you consistently did those transitions and used me in other ways. But at somewhere at Pico, you probably went through conflict management.
Yes.
Which was, the way the week-long T group based workshop was referred to when my father instigated it within that system. And so then you got exposed to a bunch of theories like the interpersonal gap, which that particular theory, I think, stuck with you.
Well, the intent versus impact.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. No, that stuck with me in a big, big way, Gil. And it still is with me today, even though I'm retired and doing some work, but it's just incredible to me with human interaction at work, at home, at play, wherever, how much intent versus impact gets in the way of people's relationships. So that was a massive impact on me personally and professionally, and I certainly carried that forward with me as well. And I often said, boy, if we as humans could align our intent with our impact, how powerful would that be? And it was just not only a fascinating learning for me, an insightful learning for me, it was a lifelong journey for me to continue to develop and grow in that space. And I've never gotten it right. I don't know that we're capable of getting it right all the time, 100% of the time as human beings. But it was a fascinating learning for me, very impactful.
Yeah, you consistently use those terms throughout the time I worked with you, which was right up to when you retired. So, when did you retire?
August of 22.
1922. So, or 1922,
No,
2022.
Yeah.
2022. So from 1996 to 2022, we had a pretty consistent, teamwork.
26 years, Gil.
Yeah. A great 26 years.
It was. You helped a lot. You helped many different organizations across those 26 years with me, and I know you helped a lot besides me as well. So
yeah, I'm still blessed to be doing that work. I'm in a profession where I don't really have to retire, and I'm not eager, not in a rush to do so. I'm hoping to keep going for, I don't know, another decade or something, as long as my brain and my body hold up.
Well, you have to stay young, especially.
Yep. And keep working out, which is something that you are quite committed to.
Yes.
So, So just the basics of that theory. I'm just going to say this for the listeners. I mean, people misunderstand each other, and that's the part that can never be completely eliminated. No matter how you try to be as clear as you can be, other people are going to take it the way they take it based on their own assumptions and life history and how they relate to authority figures and how to be an authority figure. We all have beliefs about that, and so often the best intentions are taken differently than what we expected, and there's recovery. There's times where you have to figure out, well, wait a second, I'm trying to influence this way, and yet people are taking it a completely different way than I expected. And so that's where that interpersonal gap way of thinking can help me stay humble. I know that I'm not always understood the way I want to be understood, and you really took that to heart with team after team.
Yes, and a leader's words are so impactful and so powerful in an organization. The little words, the little phrases have huge, huge impacts. And I appreciated it, but I didn't always get it. And, surely you understand surely you know that safety is important to me. Yes, I'm challenging you on schedule, but surely you know safety is important to me. But yet, if I, as a leader, never or rarely engage you on safety and routinely, frequently engage you on schedule, and this is just an example for you.
Yeah, it's a great example.
Then the person on the other end of that is naturally going to think, well, I guess schedule's more important than safety. And then that may impact them when they're out in the field working.
Yep.
And they may think, well, you know what, I really got to get this done, and maybe I'll take this little shortcut. And that little shortcut the individual may get away with, but that shortcut another time, that individual may get injured, may create a compliance issue. And so it's that space for a leader, the words that we use, the way we engage, what we engage on, and the frequency we engage on, that impact is just incredible. And so it takes a lot of effort, I think, for a leader to really be cognizant of that and to really think about their intent and what impact that they can be having an organization, both positively and negatively, both intended and unintended. And it's sometimes very difficult for a leader to see that. And so having someone such as yourself help in the organization, or having the team have such an open and trusting relationship so that they can challenge the leader, are all just opportunities in my mind for improved performance.
Yeah, it's critical, and it reminds me of a couple of things. But this is way back. Do you remember the back to basics thing at Peach Bottom?
Yeah.
That came out of that. Well, the organization had tried to go from being ultra conservative, which is really important, especially in the nuclear industry, but to where they were encouraging, people to act appropriately and not be so like bureaucratic in the approach. And so there was the make it happen message. And that got translated by some of the workforce into doing things what they thought was maybe creative, but it led to some situations that weren't good situations. And that leadership team managed to step back at Peach Bottom and say, you know what, this is not just about the workforce. This is about the message we've been sending. And we really need to have a new conversation about expectations, because we don't want people to make it happen by using the wrong tool or by doing work that wasn't really planned.
It's a very mature leadership team that was able to do that, to step back. Too often, leaders in those situations see the worker taking some action and place blame on the worker without adequately looking in the mirror and looking at the organizational dynamics and looking at the leadership messaging that influences the worker in a very big way. So that's a great example, Gil, and kudos to that leadership team for being able to step back and get that message rectified, because that was certainly not their intent to have folks make it happen without compliance to procedures and policy. So, great example.
Yeah, Jay Deering deserves a lot of credit for that, the VP at the time at Peach Bottom.
Jay Deering, fine man.
Yeah.
Learned a lot from Jay.
Yeah. Humble, but, enough to consider, well, maybe this has something to do with us. Yeah. And trying to create an organization that took appropriate action and yet did it the right way. And that takes, I think that just takes conversations that keep happening.
I remember a specific example, Gil, that it just stuck with me for so long because it was so powerful. And we had a very significant project, very important project to get done for customers, for the business. And the project was struggling in a number of areas, and it started causing schedule and cost issues. And I know from experience, project teams, people want to go be successful. They want to go get things done and recover as best as they can. And sometimes that ends up resulting in teams taking steps they shouldn't take and taking shortcuts on work, on quality, on safety. And I remember going out to that team, and it was a very visible project externally. And I knew they were feeling so much pressure. And I said to them, look, I don't, which is unusual for people that know me, Gil, to say this, but it came from a lot of the learning that we're speaking about. And I told the team, I don't want you to worry about the cost and the schedule impacts. And I don't want you to worry about what those above are going to say. I don't want you to worry about what the external parties are going to say. I'll put that all on my shoulders. I'll take that responsibility. That's on me. I want you to worry about safely executing the rest of this project in a high quality way. I don't want you to forget about cost and schedule, but I'll take the burden of that off of you from an external perspective and from those above. And I heard from that team for weeks and months afterwards about how impactful that was on them.
Nice.
And their ability to not get so, because they were so consumed by that, because there was all kinds of pressure coming from all avenues of the organization and external. And that team ended up executing that project safely and with high quality. And, so the learnings absolutely played a role in my ability to take that step. As a young man, I probably would have screwed that one up. And it's through the years and the wisdom and the learnings, the hard learnings, that I was able to see what was going on in the organization. And your story about Jay and your story about Jerry and them stepping back, I think it's a similar one. And so I think that's just another example of the power of intent versus impact. There was a great example where I was able to get my intent aligned with the impact in a very, very positive way, and was very deliberate about going about it. But the team was they were shocked at the beginning, and then they were very, very thankful and embraced it and went out and executed the rest of that project in a very excellent way.
Nice. And I bet the organization and the external people were actually pretty pleased at the end of that.
They were. They were.
I think it's easy for a leader to get the intent of the people above them and the other pressures, misunderstand that intent and think that they just have to, push things.
Yep.
There's
no question. I got a bunch of thoughts and experiences in that space as well.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
No matter how competent you are as a leader, I think it's easy to start to walk on eggshells with the people above and not really be yourself in a sense.
The other piece of that is the CEOs and others, C-suite, whoever, and leaders. It applies the whole way down, but the words at the top from a CEO, they can just reverberate significantly. But quite often people would say, well, he or she, the CEO, said this, so we have to go do this. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Yes, they said we needed to do X, but that didn't mean we were supposed to spend, whatever, tens of millions of dollars to do it or more. So people in the organization will often take messaging from the top in the wrong way, which I think is what you're referring to, and then refer to that in their portion of the organization, and sometimes get it all wrong, which then is not only an issue for the leader, but it's also an issue for the C-suite leader. So you have to be very, very careful in that space.
Yeah, because it's easy to be afraid to say to the people above, well, here's how I'm understanding what you're wanting, and to have a dialogue really with the people above. The same thing you faced with team after team, where it takes work to get them to open up to you about how they're taking things.
It does, because trust in an organization, it doesn't come easily, and it doesn't, if you establish it, it doesn't stay easily.
Yep.
And when an organization doesn't have trust up and down the line, then that is very, very difficult. You are not going to have the open conversations that you need, because why would I be open with you if I don't trust you?
Sure. Or if I think you're not going to be around long. I just also remember thinking back to Pico Nuclear that like the history had been that people would be in positions for, I don't know, decades maybe. And so what to change that, which wasn't functional, I did with one guy, boy, what was his name? I did 5 transition sessions in 3 years where he was put in charge of new groups. And And he did a great job with each group, but it just takes time for people to get used to a new leader and for the group to start really functioning well with that leader. And so you can overdo moving people, you can overdo shifting leadership positions. Uh, well, so then after you left Pico Nuclear, the next time you called me, you were the VP of a nuclear station outside of the Pico system, in the new system. And I think you went through some of the same stuff there where you had intention of helping them talk about difficult issues. And at first, many of the people in the system were like actually afraid of talking to you.
Yeah, I had come in, from the outside, quote unquote.
Right.
And I think everything we just talked about, Gil, for the last 20, 30 minutes, ended up getting very magnified for me in that role. And I'm still learning as a person. I was still learning as a leader then. I was still learning as a leader up until I retired. And there was a piece in my mind of what needed to be fixed versus working together to improve. And, I'll never forget, after I had been there a little while, a very wonderful person, wonderful leader, had said to me, if you just put your heart on your sleeve a bit, Paul, and have people get to know you, you'd be far better off. And, to me, there's a large piece of intent versus impact there. Because I told myself I cared. I told myself I was very interested in the workers and the workforce and the people there. I didn't do enough, though, to have them see that. So yes, when I got there, and then after a little bit of time, started having some opportunities to engage differently with the organization, I think is when brought you in to help with improving that.
Yeah, and there it wasn't a transition session. It was really, we did the conflict management type of learning with all the managers, and so really all the middle managers down to the supervisors went through a 5-day and a follow-up using T groups, where they were learning how to talk about difficult issues with each other. And you came into every one of those sessions, and people said some difficult things to you.
They weren't all easy. So
No.
transition. The word I was thinking about was intervention. To help work through, because yes, there was a lot of trust issues and conflict that had arisen. So you had your work cut out. They were some very difficult sessions that we had together.
Yeah, and you had your work cut out, and I think you handled yourself great in those sessions, and got feedback that people were really upset about, like how you had talked to one guy once or something, and you really listened to all that, and I think turned that relationship around, just sort of like that person's advice to you, which was pretty good advice. Part of what leads to misunderstanding also, which you're hinting at, is what doesn't get said. Leaders just being quiet can lead to just as much misunderstanding as leaders opening their mouths.
Well, as a leader, you don't have to say anything to have an impact.
That's right.
And again, it may not be your intent when you're walking down the hall with your head down and you're deep in thought about an issue, and you don't smile and you don't say good morning, and people look at that and they make assumptions about, how bad things must be, because Paul's walking down the hallway like that and he's looking grumpy. He's not smiling. He's not saying hi. And so you're so right. That whole intent versus impact, it's nonverbal as well as the verbal.
It's easy for people to take that and, just a serious look and think, oh, he's upset with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to personalize it. Yeah. So, well, I thought that was, actually a lot of fun, and it really, I believe, started turning the culture in that nuclear station around. And as you recall, no doubt, the whole VP of the fleet, or the whatever the title was, got removed, and I mean there was a whole shakeup. I think before really we had a chance to finish what we were doing at that station, but then you moved on.
You say fun. I'm glad one person had fun. That was a very, very challenging time, without a doubt. One of the most challenging of my career, and one of the most powerful from a learning perspective. Not only during, maybe more so afterwards, upon deep reflection. But
sure, you might have thought that you had failed or something.
Yes.
And that's not easy.
No, and there was certainly portions of that in my mind, and it took a while for me to take a different view of what that was, and I actually worked with some OD folks, not you for that, on working through that, and was able to turn around my perspective of me, and turn it into a very, very powerful learning.
Yeah, well, I believe that, and I also believe that if the whole shakeup hadn't happened, it was fleet-wide, that you would have enjoyed the fruits of the work you put in at that location. They certainly improved their performance in the next few years.
They did.
And I can't help but believe some of it was the work that you allowed to happen with all the layers of management there. And then you moved on, and the next place you went, I think right away you had me in to do transition work and to work with the team as they created really a new organization within an organization.
Yeah, that was created a team. If you're referring to a lot of very, very significant project work.
Yep.
And created a team from the ground up, and that team. That's still today a very, very high performing team, and we put a lot of work in to selecting the right folks on that team, but then working together to develop that team and develop one another within that team. I was able to take a lot of the learnings from the hard learnings from the years prior and put them into play right from the beginning with that team. And it was just, it was an incredible experience, and just so proud of that team and who they are and what they accomplished and what they're still accomplishing today. I'd put that team out there as one of the best, if not the best, in the industry.
Yeah, and it was interesting how you used me with that group, because it was, besides the transition sessions, and which I did with various groups within that group, but also you had like at least an annual team meeting, and you brought me in, and instead of it just being like PowerPoint presentations and people sitting and listening, we turned it into very dialogue based sessions where they were talking to each other, they were talking to you, and they were brainstorming what was in the way and coming up with solutions. And so those retreats were pretty effective, I think. And I just that was another, for me, that was again fun. It was always a risk, like, well, will this design work out the way it's supposed to, and so on. But just the faith that if they're allowed to actually talk to each other and think about what's happening and help solve problems, that you're going to get a good result. So that's how I kind of remember that particular time.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun the way we did that, and I think the team embraced that, and it was just, it was wonderful because you ended up creating a lot of trust in the organization. Anything could be put on the table. It was wide open, and it wasn't just that annual meeting. That's how it got conducted day to day.
Yep.
And it was an opportunity when we did those to bring people together in a different way, have fun together, because it was not only the work piece. We did a lot about learning more about the team as individuals, and we put a lot into that, and a lot into having fun together at the same time of performing at a very high level for the organization.
Yeah, I've certainly applied that ever since. Even just the idea that you don't have to structure every minute in an event like that, that it's actually good to let people have like 20-minute breaks, and just trust that these people care. They're going to be talking to peers in the hallway and making connections and using the time wisely.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no. Well, you learn so much as the years go by, and because probably in the past I would have been more structured about, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, versus just having some structure, but really more about laying the outcomes you want to deliver with the team, and then having the team help lead the way on the best way to deliver those outcomes.
makes sense. And then you continued your journey, and I just still recall transition sessions, each stop along the way. And you're a tall guy. You're a thoughtful guy, so you can be sort of lost in thought, thinking things through, and it seemed like each group would go through their own process of telling you that, well, I was, kind of afraid of you, and figuring out through conversations like how best to overcome their own inhibitions to bring things up and so on, and learning to trust and then moving forward. I don't know if you recall those in that sort of same way or not, but it was I thought, a consistent theme. People would be somehow intimidated just because you're a tall, thoughtful boss and serious about your expectations and wanting to get things done, which is pretty important.
Yeah. No, I'm just sitting here smiling, because I don't know, Gil, the serious is a good word for me to describe me. And, that can have an impact on people in and of itself, I may have zero intention on the impact it's having, but when someone's serious, people read that all kinds of different ways. And the other thing was, I asked a lot of questions, and challenging questions, and probing to the heart questions that made people uncomfortable. And, that's not the objective, to make people uncomfortable. It was, sincerely trying to get to the heart of the issues that we as an organization faced. And so, one of the things people had talked to me about, you included, was that I would do better if I would provide more of my thought process of while I'm asking the question. And, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I'm thinking as I lead up to the question. And, I never really got comfortable with that. And, I wish I would have. I still think about it today in the roles I have, because I'm on a board. I'm in a couple of positions. I do some work with PE firms, and I still think about it today because, it just doesn't feel natural to me to provide that. It almost feels boastful to be, well, here's what I'm thinking, and, leading up to the question. So it's actually still something I'm still working on. I wish I would have gotten better at that. It was a strength of mine to be able to see things, and to be able to ask the questions and probe in the way I did. It was a strength. If I could have found a better way earlier, to not have, the impact with that, I would have been better off. That's one that I'm still working on today. And I never really quite figured out how to be good at that, in terms of, I was very good at the questioning and probing and getting to the issues and then resolving the issues. But I didn't get good enough at managing the impact better. I'll put it that way.
Well, I think that part of the impact you had was that people took you seriously, and that's important. I mean, people, you had high standards. You probably still have high standards, and for a lot of people, that was motivating. Actually, they did their best to, meet those standards, and so then the challenge was to have them stay in dialogue. You like to keep talking to you, and not just assume they knew what you meant, and hold in any kind of resentment they had or whatever, and let that get between you somehow. But to keep a dialogue going even after the questions, I think is just as important as somehow being clear about your intention, before.
Yeah, good point. It was, as you say, if I could have managed the impact better. But on that last team that we had, we talked about, we had that relationship, and people were motivated by that, and they were open to, well, wait a minute, challenging me, if that's what you want to call it. Is this what you mean? Is this what you're after? And so it was very powerful, what we had with that team. And I think that team is still, some of them are still using you to this day. And if not, they're certainly using the practices because I keep in touch with them, and I hear your name and I hear some of what we had helped create together with that team still playing out today.
That's great. I think even, and I don't know this for a fact, but I know it was for a long time, even Pico Nuclear, even with, new ownership and so on that they've been through, that they, certainly the cadre was active for a long time. They kept doing transition sessions. Once people experience something that works, that they both get better performance from, but also they like it better morale, you could say. It sticks.
Certainly.
Just like the intent versus impact stuck with you.
Yeah.
If it makes sense.
It absolutely will stick. People want to be successful. People want to be part of a high performing team. People don't go to work to be on a poor team or a bad team. People want to be successful. They want to be part of a high performing team. And when people see that it works and you have leaders that help create that and are willing to help create that, it's a very powerful thing. So I'm not surprised it gets sustained in an organization with people.
Hey, well, look, I've enjoyed this conversation. And so I think we're almost done. You mentioned it didn't feel natural to like somehow try to describe what you wanted before asking questions or your intent. And at least part of that, I think anytime a person tries to do something that's not their first habit, it won't feel natural. And that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. If you do something a lot often enough, then it'll feel natural, like the way you took in the interpersonal gap as a way of understanding, gaps between what you were hoping to, how you were hoping to land on people and how you were landing on people. Obviously that became a habit. So I'm just saying this to the listeners in general. If something doesn't feel natural, people often say that to me. That could just be because it's different than what your brain is used to.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun, Gil. I've enjoyed it, and it's helped me too. Because as I said, you just gave me some reinforcement on how I can continue to improve. Because I think about my engagements today, and I'm not with the team, so I touch the team, whatever, every other month or quarterly, in a different way. So there's not the opportunity for me to have as much follow up and to see. So I'll take that for the next meeting and work on, how I go about doing my questioning, because, in the role I'm at now, it's just as important, if not more important, the impact that I have on the teams.
Cool. Well, another simple thing is occasionally to ask, like, well, how am I landing on you?
Yeah.
And just see what comes up, what emerges from that kind of question.
Yep.
Well,
good deal.
So, Paul, is there anything else that you want to say or get into before we wrap this up?
I don't think so, Gil. I hope your listeners stayed for the whole portion. I hope it's worthwhile, and I hope it has the impact that we intended.
Well said. Also, so you still do, I don't know, some sort of consultation
Yes.
And so if people want to get a hold of you, like you are like a coach to executives or to boards?
No,
That,
I'm an advisor. Um,
uh-huh.
I'm a board advisor, and then I'm advisor, you know, to a few PE firms. But I do engage with people. There's some folks I stay in touch with. There's you know a couple of young folks that I engage with, and I guess it's mentoring. I'm always open. If people wanted to get a hold of me, if they know how to get a hold of you, you could probably put them directly in touch with me.
Okay, cool. I would gladly do that.
I'm always willing to help somebody out and help people grow and develop if I can. Um, and it's always fun to engage with others. And so certainly feel free to reach out. You know how to get a hold of me, and you still need to come visit me so we can play some APBA.
That's it. And I really plan to do that, a road trip.
There you
So,
go.
and for
Bring,
those of you in the audience, it's probably a minority that don't know what APBA is, APBA, but it's a tabletop baseball game that was invented in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And uh, Paul, you were the only customer I had over the years where we had played that when we were young, and so when we had a chance, we'd sit down and recreate Pittsburgh versus Baltimore in various scenarios.
yes. Bring back our youth a little bit. And
Yeah, and the
Lancaster,
glory of
PA, for those that are from Lancaster.
and the fading glory of those two baseball teams.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
There's,
no, do
there's,
it. Bring Lisa and bring the Appa game, and enjoy the beauty of the lakes and the mountains of South Carolina.
it's a deal.
All
It's
right,
going to
Jeff.
happen sometime. Okay, well, uh, thank you, Paul, and thank you, audience. And so, till next time, that's
Very
a
good.
wrap.
All right, take care.
Hey, I appreciate you listening. This, again, is Gil Crosby. And I want you to take advantage of what's available to you. I have many free materials. I am happy to talk to people about their situations, especially if you're trying to create change, either social change or organization change. We have frequent workshops that are available, T group workshops. If you have never been in a T group with us, then don't miss it in your life. It's many people have said to me, of all the trainings I've ever received, I got this one 30 years ago, and it's the only one that stuck with me. You're learning from your actual interactions with the other participants and with the faculty. The faculty are walking the same talk that they're teaching of behavioral skills. It's a training workshop. That's what the T stands for. This is done in the spirit of the creation of T groups by Kurt Lewin and his associates. It's for groups. It's for teams. That's how it was originally designed. It is a opportunity to learn about theory and put it directly into practice. Again, the original design, you learn things and then you put them into practice. It was not just all ambiguity, which is how some T groups, most are led today, where the faculty hardly says anything. That's not how this is designed. So join us for that. There's always workshops. There's the Leadership Institute of Seattle, a 2-year program where you will learn from T groups and learn how to do all the organization development work that my father designed, most of it, and I continue that practice alongside my brother Chris and many other associates. So don't be a stranger. There's a lot going on. It's always changing. So be in touch, and it's on the website, crosbyod.com. I look forward to working with you in your organization or as you pursue things like reducing gun violence and decreasing racism in our society. Whatever your goals are, the social science of Kurt Lewin guides how to achieve those goals in a reliable way. And so that's what I apply and practice every day. And I invite you to do the same. Together, we can create high productivity and morale in organizations. We can create stronger foundations for democracy. We can create a better world.